All right, let's do this last episode.
Cindy, you're done.
I'm done. Cut off.
Story time is
Cut
over.
me off before I say something.
It's 11:15.
worse about Eastern Europeans.
Running out of steam.
Victoria's running out of steam.
I'm running out of steam. Let's do this.
Okay. Okay.
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's do this.
I'm trying to see. So why are we standing? I don't know, Don. It's very real. Was I supposed to spend the rest of my life feeling miserable on the basic TV?
Why are you with Shirley, Connie? Why are you with me? I don't know why I'm still with you. I mean, I used to know, but I don't.
Basic Teen TV.
All right, guys, welcome back to Basic Teen TV. We are a weekly podcast talking about some 90s teen TV dramas. And we've been talking about Dawson's Creek. We're into season 5, and tonight we're talking about episode 9 called 4 Scary Stories. My name is Melissa.
I'm Cindy.
I'm Victoria.
All right, guys. We can probably get through this episode really fast,
I'm
right?
gonna burn through this one.
Yeah.
Burn through this bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 4 scary stories. And our main characters in this, no Dawson, no Jen. Well, a little bit of Jen. But it is Pacey, Jack, and Joey. And I don't even
They went out and then they came home. They're in Graham's house.
Yeah, came home to Graham's.
came home to
Yeah.
Graham's house. Yeah, well, because that's where Jack lives.
Jack lives there.
Right.
Yeah.
So and then they've been out and they came home, and this is presumably while Jen and
guess
Dawson
Dawson
are
are
still in New
Still in New
Hampshire.
Hampshire.
Having sex
Yeah.
Yeah.
with
So-
his hairy nipples.
So, yes. So they come home and then they went to see a movie, a horror movie.
Oh,
And then they
okay.
came back and they were talking about like if it was scary or not, or cheesy or campy or whatever, and they're having a whole discussion about being scared or not being scared by stuff. And then they were like, I have a scary story. I have a scary story.
Yeah, so
then-
they try to one-up each other on their scary stories.
So they each take turns telling scary stories. Now, I'll preface this by saying that I was a little confused because I thought that their stories maybe were real. They were like, I'm going to tell this scary thing happened to me 2 weeks ago. And then, but in retrospect, I think they maybe took a real life scenario and embellished.
They took some artistic liberties
Yes.
with their stories. Yeah, so Joey's first story is it's Halloween, and Audrey is like trying to convince her to like not study and go to the library, but to go to this Halloween party instead. And Joey's like, no, I really got to study. I'll be fine here. And like Audrey is like, it's really scary. Like the library is a totally
I did not understand this at all.
unsafe place to be, Joey.
As being like a woman out in the world after dark, you should not be at the library. That is like the most dangerous place for you to be.
Yeah, you should definitely go to a party where you'll likely get date raped, not the library.
So Joey stays, and when she first shows up to the library, there's a whole bunch of people there, a whole bunch of students studying and like getting their shit done. And before Audrey leaves, Audrey points out this like really creepy dude who's just like eating a bag of peanuts at the back of this study room. And
Like
So Audrey-
staring at all the girls.
yeah, so Audrey just made Joey aware of this man and just like, watch out for that dude. He seems really creepy. And Joey's like, okay.
And he looks like Norman Bates from
Okay.
Psycho. That's the vibe he was giving.
Oh, okay.
Like
All
from
right.
the original Psycho,
Okay.
that character.
Psycho. I don't think I've ever seen Psycho. I will say I'm not a scary movie person. I scare very easily.
I
So-
love scary movies. If they're good, there are so many shit scary movies. And that's why I think this episode resonated a little bit more for me than the other departure episodes that Dawson's Creek likes to take.
Okay.
Like the dream sequence episodes and the like flashback episodes. I fucking hate them so
I mean,
much.
there is someone on this writing team who does like the scary movie genre, because this is not the first
Right.
scary, offshoot episode that they've done before. So there's definitely someone on the crew who likes to do the scary story thing. So Joey is in the library and like throughout the course of the evening, obviously the room starts to filter out, and it comes down to just her, creepy dude eating the peanuts in the back, and then I guess some sort of monitor who's just like,
it's like a student who's working at the library.
Yeah,
for the
he's
night.
probably on some work study program, and this is his job.
Yeah, he's like clean cut, blonde, good looking guy that you're not supposed to be afraid of.
Right. Yeah.
As opposed to creepy guy eating peanuts.
So I
shelled peanuts. So he's
Which-
like crushing the shells and leaving shells everywhere.
So
To be fair, that is really creepy and gross
It's so
to do
gross.
at the library.
And he was eating, he was
leaving all his
crushing
shells behind.
peanut shells and eating them. Presumably she was at the library for hours and he was like nonstop. I'm like, you're not done eating peanuts yet? You've been eating peanuts for 4 hours.
Well, he's also reading the newspaper. Take some time to get through the newspaper. I don't know.
It's a lot of peanuts, though.
yeah, it's
I
a lot
went-
of saturated fats. I'm sorry. Just slow down on the peanuts.
I went to the IMDb page for this episode just because I wanted to figure out who the monitor kid was, the clean cut blonde kid. Because again, he's another face that I recognize that I can't place anywhere else. I just know I've seen him in other shit. And his name is Steve Coulter. But what I thought was even funnier, just funny, was that on IMDb his character name was Scary Guy, and then the guy in eating the peanuts was listed as Creepy Guy. So you have Creepy Guy.
Oh, I went on IMDb too, and I thought Clean Cut Monitor
Scary
Guy was
Guy.
called Library Guy.
Oh,
And
Library Guy.
yeah,
You're right.
and
You're right.
Scary Guy was
I'm sorry.
called.
You're right. Library Guy is the clean cut other student.
Yeah.
And then Creepy Guy was the dude eating the peanuts. Oh, okay. So I'm sorry. I have to reset. So Library Guy.
Do a reset.
I know. The Library Guy, the clean cut Library Guy, is actually, his real name is Bryce Johnson. So Bryce Johnson is the kid that like I said, I've seen in other things before and I just can't place him elsewhere. Creepy Guy was played by Stephen Coulter, who was giving you the psycho.
And that's why
vibes
I
guy.
went on IMDb, because I was like, he's giving me the psycho character. And I was like, it can't be the same actor because that guy was so much older. Like,
Right.
I mean, maybe he was like 28 when he was in Psycho, but that was in 1960 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Not the same guy.
So like I said, it comes down to it where it's just Joey, Library Guy, and Creepy Guy. And Joey has to go up to Library Guy to ask for some papers that only he has access to. And there's a certain book that she needs. And he's like, okay, it's here, up on whatever other part of the library. So she goes to look for it and like runs into Creepy Guy and like screams her head off.
Yeah, because he's like, psst, come here. And she's like, ah, and runs away.
But runs into Library Guy.
And Library Guy's like, do you want me to call
Campus
And-
security?
yeah,
Do you want me to
like-
to have you to escort you back?
Yeah, and then she's like coyly like tucks her hair behind her ear and she's like, no, it's okay.
everything's fine?
I'm fine. I'm just being a silly girl.
So she goes on her way. I mean, it comes down to it where like Joey is just starting to freak herself out. She like hides herself in like a janitor's closet because she hears doors opening and closing and she can't see anybody, but she hears these noises or whatever. And so when she thinks the coast is clear, she comes back out. And who does she run into? Does she run into a Library Guy?
Yeah, I think she runs into Library Guy again. And then she was like, oh, like somebody was following me downstairs.
I think it was Creepy Guy.
Yeah, and then he was like, yeah, I just saw him follow you left and then he followed you out and so then I followed
him.
I followed him and I ran into you and he's like, let's go this way. And then he goes and like locks the door and she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm going to rape you.
I mean, essentially.
And she's like, oh, you're the guy that like the security's been talking about that assaulted that girl. And he's like, yep, now I'm going to assault you. And he's like, what are you going to do about it?
And she's like, you
And
know what I'm
then
going to do about it? I'm going to fucking roundhouse
And then it
you to
gets
the
crazy.
face.
She fucking roundhouses him.
Yeah, they like have a full on fist fight, and
like-
she knocks him out cold.
It's like Kill Bill style
Yeah.
fighting. Like she roundhouses him. She fucking, I don't even know what that kick is called.
They like jump up and like kick, and it's all this crazy shit. And then the other guy, creepy guy, comes up. It turns out he's actually a cop, and he's been like keeping an eye on library guy because he knows that library guy is a rapist.
And keeping an eye on her in the best way possible, which is staring at her while he eats peanuts for 4 hours.
Yeah,
at the
and
library.
like being a weird creep.
hey,
Psst, psst, come here.
but actually, Joey's scary story. This is legitimately what women think about anytime we're out in the world after the sun has set. Like we think about this scenario,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a version of this happening all the time.
All the time, yeah. Like whenever I take Murphy out for his bedtime walk, I think about it all the time. Every time I step out.
Like that horror story plays in our minds 24/7
Yeah.
as an option, like a thing that could happen.
Come here.
We need to learn how to fight.
I would. Yeah,
I think
we could
that's
arrest
the
some
moral of the
roundhouse
story.
kicks.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
to
if
take self-defense.
Some guy, even who had my best interest in mind, was like, Psst, come here. I'd be like, fuck you.
I mean, who does that? Who have you ever in real life heard anyone go?
Not.
I've never in real life heard anyone do that.
I have, but it's not followed by anything kind or well intentioned. It's usually somebody who is trying to harass you and like, Psst, nice legs, nice ass. You're like, fuck yourself.
But I've never heard psst. I've heard like
Oh yeah, that too. Or like the teeth
Ew.
sucking.
yeah, that.
Ew, what? Ew.
Yeah, it's
Gross.
Fucking men.
yeah, it's an old man thing, and they like what they see, and they're like, I'm like,
Ugh, don't
with
suck
you?
too much. Your dentures are gonna fall out of your head. And knock those dentures loose, sir.
I'm going to knock those dentures loose with a super kick. That's what it's
Yeah.
called, a super kick. She roundhouses him and then she super kicks him. All right. Well, so that was Joey's story. She escapes all the bad dudes. So then it's is it Jack's?
Yeah, Jack's next.
Jack tells his story next. So Jack's story is also slightly based in reality. He's at his frat house and he
scoot over.
No, he's like, Melissa, you're moving like this as he adjusts himself.
You move
Hey, go
over.
ahead, get comfortable, Murphy.
gotta make sure
You good? You
gotta
good?
make sure my Murphy dog is comfy.
He's like,
He's
who
like,
me?
I heard my name.
Yes, you. Oh, baby.
Anything for Murphs.
Anything for Murphs. So Jack, so like I was saying, Jack is at his frat house and he's there with his two pledge brothers and their, mission for the night. They've been assigned to like clean out the basement. So it's like him and his two frat bros down in the basement and Jack is sick. He thinks he's coming down with like the flu.
And they're like, drink this whiskey. It'll help.
It'll help.
It'll help with the virus.
And it'll make you
I
feel
think one of them
better.
said the word virus, and I was like, ugh, this is triggering.
Yeah, and then he holds up his flask, and I'm like, you guys shouldn't all drink from that flask. You're gonna get each other
he
sick.
pours it into cups.
I know,
yeah,
but
I thought it was going. I thought they were this route, like Jack's scary story, was going to be like a virus scary story.
Oh, okay.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
they were
Like
all
something would spread.
they
and
were all going to turn into zombies because they
Yeah.
drank out of the same
That's where I
flask.
thought this was going. And I was like, damn, this episode is rough, man. We got like rapists and virus talk and zombies and shit.
So, well, actually, I think it's before Jack takes the shot of whiskey. One of the other kids finds a picture of a previous pledge class that his dad was in, and he's like, "Yeah, that's my dad right there." And they're like, "Oh man, that's sick, bro." And then they take a shot of whiskey, and Jack starts to feel like he's gonna vom. So the other two guys are like, "Yo, bro, don't do it in here. Go to the bathroom."
Yeah, he's like, this is a vomit free zone. If you're gonna vom in the bathroom.
Did they actually say that?
Yes, and I thought about that, and I was like, yeah, hey, guess what? My apartment is a vomit free zone. I've broken my own rules, but I'm like, what? It's weird. They were like, if you're gonna don't vom here. Vom in this cup.
I missed that.
He says it. He's like, this is a vomit free.
Vom free.
He says this is a vomit free zone.
I do remember them heckling him about like, fucking go to the bathroom if you're gonna get sick. But I don't remember hearing him.
They're
say
like,
this is a
definitely
vomit-free
drink
zone."
this whiskey, even though you feel terrible. Drink it, and then they're like, dude, don't fucking vom.
Yeah, they're like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, I might have the flu. And they're like, pussy. So he goes to the bathroom and he like splashes cold water on his face, and then he sees a ghosty. He sees a shadow.
He sees a shadow move, and he's like, "What the fuck is that?"
He's like, huh?
And then he leaves the bathroom, and like the two other pledge brothers that were down with him are like nowhere to be found. And then the old picture that the other dude found is like sitting on a rocking chair, and then it just like mysteriously falls on the floor and breaks.
Yeah, the glass breaks.
Yeah, and then Jack starts hearing this like pounding upstairs. So he goes upstairs, and then he finds some kid in a closet who's like duct taped together. And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Are you okay? Oh my God, what are you doing in here?" Brings him out into like the living room, and then the kid starts talking about like, "Oh yeah, they're just giving me a hard time." And Jack's like, "Well, what are they doing? Who's doing this to you, and why are they doing it to you? I don't understand what's happening." And so the kid eventually tells Jack like, "Well, it's because I'm gay," or like
He said, I confessed to my roommate that I liked him.
right,
Or
yeah.
like made a pass at my roommate. And Jack's like, okay, what's
So?
the big deal?
Yeah,
And he's like, yeah, but
I'm gay. And Jack's like, yeah, me too. So
yeah, he's
what?
like, I'm right there with you, brother. I think he said something like
He
that.
does say something like that, yeah. And so Jack's just really confused. He's like, "Well, my frat brothers are accepting me because I'm gay. Like, I don't understand why this is happening to you." And he's like, and the kid starts to feel sick, and he's like, "Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Don't. Or it's fine. Like, I'll be okay. I'll be okay." And Jack's like, "Let me just get you some water. I'll get you some water." So Jack goes to get some water, and when he comes back, the kid's gone.
No. He goes.
No, he goes into the
Oh,
he goes
sorry.
back
storage.
to the, yeah, he
room.
goes back to the basement because that's where his flip phone is, and he's gonna like call somebody, even though the kid told him not to call anybody.
And the music changes again. 'Cause
Yeah,
the
and then
music keeps like,
He notices the
Skipping.
picture that had broken from like the class of 1969, 68, I think it was, and he sees that kid in
the photo.
In the
The
photo,
picture,
and so
okay.
then he runs back upstairs, and the kid's gone. So
that was a ghoulie.
he was a ghost.
He was a ghoulie.
Yeah, and I think before all this happened, the two kids that were downstairs while they were taking shots of whiskey were talking. The one kid was talking about his dad, and like his he was saying that his roommate killed himself.
Oh.
Yeah, so the implication was that guy's father actually duct taped this kid and put him in a closet, and he died.
Damn. I
Yeah.
missed all that.
Yeah, it was a little heavy.
That's like the heaviest scary story out of all of these.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit.
It is.
But yeah, that was the implication. So like, because he was like, oh yeah, like the roommate was really weird, and lame, and he killed himself. The two frat guys.
weird and lame.
But then Jack learns through the ghost that the truth was that
He was the gay kid.
yeah, like the roommate that he made a pass at was so offended that he like duct taped him and put him in a closet and left him there to die.
Damn.
And then claimed it was suicide, so they wouldn't get in trouble because he's a rich white guy, so he's not going to get in trouble for killing a gay dude. Anyways, that was the story. fun, scary story.
Fun times. So then the next scary story is from Pacey, and it starts with Pacey giving Karen a ride home in Chef's BMW.
Porsche.
Chef's
No, they're in a BMW. His other car is a Porsche. The BMW
Oh.
is his wife's.
Yeah, it was Chef's wife's car.
Yeah.
because Chef's,
Clearly, I wasn't really paying attention to this
Chef's
episode.
Porsche was in the shop, so they were driving Chef's wife's Beamer.
Yeah. And so they're driving down the road, and they come up upon which I think is a Mustang, and they don't have their headlights on. So Pacey like flashes his lights at the oncoming car to signify to the driver like, hey, your headlights are off. And Karen's like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, the guy didn't have his lights on, so I was just like flashing my lights so he could turn his lights on. And Karen's like, don't you know that's a gang initiation thing? Like, they're gonna turn around and then come beat us up and stuff. And Pacey's like, oh, so you're being silly, Karen. Like, stop it. That's not a real thing.
Yeah, like that's an urban legend.
That's an urban legend. Karen was kind of right. The car turns around and starts like tailing Pacey, and they're all freaking out and stuff. And then the Mustang hits Pacey's car, well, Chef's car, and they're like, what the fuck? And then they pull it. I mean,
yeah,
do they get rid of the Mustang? They just are like, then the next thing we see is them pulling into a diner.
Yeah, because she's like, there's a truck stop here. And he's like, where?
right,
and
a
she's
truck
like,
stop.
here. And she like pulls the steering wheel. And so he veers off the road.
Yeah.
And then they're like pulling into the parking lot of a diner. And then they go in. They try to use a payphone, but it's out of order. And they walk in and like everybody goes silent and stares at them.
It has a very like a Pulp Fiction vibe to it.
right.
The diner scene in Pulp Fiction.
And the diner was like straight out of like the 60s or 70s, and like everybody's staring at them. And then they go to use a phone and the phone's out of order. So then they're trying to leave and the waitress is like, can I help you? And they're like, well, can we use your phone? And she's like, it's right there. And he's like, well, it's out of order. And then she's like, well, I guess you're shit out of luck. And he was like, okay, well, thanks. Bye.
And then Pacey starts to like yell at the whole diner. Like it starts accusing every person in the diner of the ones that hit him from behind. And then as he's like yelling, Karen's like, Pacey, look out the window. And then you see the Mustang there parked right next to them. And so I thought it was really strange that then they decide while the Mustang is parked right next to them, like a foot away from them, they get back into their car and like drive off. And then like, and then somehow the Mustang is again like heading towards them.
Yeah, then it's like in front of them. I think the implication is like some kind of ghost car.
Right, yeah. And so now it just kind of looks like they're going to play a game of chicken. Like they both cars rev their engines full speed ahead towards each other. And then what happens, like Pacey basically like starts drifting and like is able to like swerve his car. The BMW drifts out of the way. The Mustang like falls off the road into a ditch. And then
Karen's like, pop the trunk.
Karen jumps out. She's like, pop the trunk. And she pulls out a fucking bat and starts heading towards the Mustang. I'm like, at that point, you should just drive on and just like leave.
Call the police. Open up your flip phone. Call 911.
Just leave.
But yeah, no. So they go down and they like pull open the driver's side door. And guess what? There's no one in the car.
Driving the car.
Ooh. What?
Scary. So scary.
So scared.
So scared.
Terrifying.
Terrifying. And so we come back to in the living room of Graham's house. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I noticed it. So when we first started, they were in the kitchen talking about the movie or whatever. And then after Pacey tells his story, they're now moved into the living room and have a whole bunch of candles lit. I'm like, when did they light all these candles?
Well, Pacey was telling his dumb story. They were like,
they like lit the fire, play the fire in the fireplace.
They weren't listening. They were like, great story,
and
Pacey.
then like a whole bunch of candles everywhere. I'm like, when do they light all these candles? Anyways, Graham shows up and she's like, I suspect that you guys aren't having any, hanky panky or whatever she said. She says some sort of like weird.
And they're like, no, you
thing.
see us all just sitting here,
Like
right?
clearly sex is not involved.
I don't think she said hanky panky, but just basically like, you guys aren't drinking and smoking, are you?
And
Inside her house.
They're like, does it look like that's what we're doing? No. And they're like, no, we're actually having the the most wholesome time ever. We're sitting around the fire telling ghost stories. And she's like, you guys are too young to have experience enough to tell anything scary. I'm going to tell a scary story because I'm an old lady. And then she's like, actually, this story is about Jen. And I'm like, then what was the point about you like diminishing their stories and saying that they couldn't possibly have a good story because they're, anyways.
I mean, I actually wrote down that exact thing. Graham's is like, you're too young to have life experiences that are truly scary. Then she's like, here's a real scary story. Actually, it's Jen's.
Yeah, she's like, actually, it's about Jen. And I'm like, what was the point of anything you just fucking said?
She negated her own point.
Yeah, exactly.
She's like, I'm going to be better than you guys. But also, this isn't even my story. It's Jen's story. So I don't even have any stories because I'm like, I went to church on Sunday. That's scary. Ooh. Anyways.
So she starts to tell Jen's story. So Jen's at the radio
Jen's
station.
story.
Hey, by the way, when did Jen start working at the radio station?
Unknown.
Yeah, right?
I was confused by
she's
that
just
too.
all of a sudden working at the radio station.
And Charlie.
Yeah,
does-
where's Charlie?
No, I think Charlie does sometimes because when in one of the last episodes when Jen met up with Nona at the radio station, she was like, Nona was like, does it bother you that you see Charlie here? And she was like, oh no, it doesn't bother me at all. I don't care because they have opposite shifts. So I guess they both work there now.
Yeah, but main question is, when did Jen start
No
working
idea.
there? Yeah, that was
No clue.
They just like slipped that right in.
Episode 7?
No questions asked. Yeah.
Episode 7.5. We didn't see that part. Like, she just got offered a job. They were like, that one time that you fucking busted in and went on air without permission. It was good.
You're really good.
It was good. You
want a job?
Yeah.
All right, here you go.
Job.
You get your own show.
Yeah. I get now. Poof. Yeah. I'm done. All right, let's tell this story.
So Jen, I want to say this thing about Graham's story, Jen's story told by Graham.
Okay.
I don't fucking get it. I understand the general story, which is that Jen is working at the radio station and she's doing the night shift.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I don't fucking understand.
Well, so quick synopsis, just so we can get through what the story actually is. Jen starts playing a song and then she hears like a branch hitting the window and it's annoying her. So she goes outside to try and like take the branch down so it stops hitting the window. She props open the doors to the radio station with like a trash can and she gets the branch down, but a huge gust of wind comes rolling through and it moves the trash can out of the way. So now she's locked out of the radio station. She's like, oh, fuck, what am I going to do? So she tries to use her student ID card
Hey,
to pick the lock.
Has anyone here ever done that before?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have successfully.
Yeah, successfully. Yeah.
If it's not a deadbolt, you can totally do it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
this was just like those 2 glass doors. So
Right.
she in theory, she should have been able to do it.
Yeah. But she is unsuccessful.
Right.
And like her ID card falls on the inside of the doors and she's like, ah, fuck. So she runs around to the back to get
This is where I got confused.
to get through
to
get through the back door.
Like the delivery entrance in the alley.
in the alley. And then she starts hearing some noises.
Someone's like, Jennifer.
yes, her name is like being whispered.
On the wind.
Through the wind.
But then there's a silhouette. Jennifer.
Y'all are really freaking Murphy
doesn't
out.
like it.
Murphy doesn't like
so
it.
freaked out.
Sorry, Murph.
So there's like a pile of trash or something behind her, and she sees like what looks like a man standing in amongst the
Like wearing a hat.
Yeah,
There's like a
she's
silhouette of a person.
She's like, what do you want? What if I just stand there? Like, step out and fucking say what you want. And then the thing falls over and it's like a mannequin.
It's mannequin body.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, and then still, Jennifer. Oh no, then the record starts scratching and she can hear this
Yeah,
somehow.
because she had it blasted. I mean, the music was really loud the whole time. It was like 90s alt punk rock.
Right.
Yeah.
So then she like runs back out onto the street and just busts through the door. All of a sudden,
Yeah,
she
somehow the door opens.
Yeah, so now she can get in. So then she gets in and she's like, sorry, technical difficulties. We're going to go to commercial break. And then she notices that her student ID, which should have been on the floor by
the front door,
was sitting on top of like the console, the disc jockey
and she's
console.
like, oh shit, someone's in here.
And then she's like,
Yeah.
The voice starts again. And this is where things get really, I'm so glad that all of you were as confused as I was. I rewound the clip that we're about to talk about 6 times to try to understand what I was seeing. Jen looks over at the glass window. Now, was this glass window
Out to the street.
Was it out to the street
Yeah.
or was it separating the sound booth from the rest of the space?
Oh, I thought it was out to the street.
I think the DJ booth does look out onto the street.
Okay. So she's looking out into the street and a body, I guess, falls upside down from the roof of the building into the glass and breaks the glass.
Right. And it looks like it's coming right at her. And then she just screams bloody murder.
And then they show another shot of what came through. I mean, they have 3 shots of the thing breaking through the glass. And in all 3 shots, I have no idea what it was.
I just assumed that it was one of those mannequins, but who went up to the roof to strap this thing and then send it flying
Yeah,
through the
then
window.
swing
So
over.
it was a mannequin.
I only watched it that one time. I didn't rewind it at all, and I just assumed that it was one of those mannequins, or that it was supposed to be a person. And whether or not it was one of those mannequins, I assumed that it was just the one time that I watched it, but it still left an unanswered question of like, who sent it flying through the window?
The story didn't make any sense. And that was the end of the
It
story.
And that was the
there.
end of it, right?
Yeah. And then Grams is like, my
good
story's
night.
the best. Good night. Hope you're not too scared. What?
But then they all were too scared. Were they all like at the end of that? They all made a plan to like go get food or something, or I don't know. They all started to get up and like leave, and talking about who's gonna walk in front of the other. Like where's the safest place to walk? Like I'm gonna walk behind you, Pacey.
Yeah, that story like really threw them for a loop. They were like, there's no coming back from this story.
But then that's how the episode ends. It's just
Yeah,
like
that's it.
four random scary stories.
With Grams, that was supposed to be like the finale.
Right.
Like
yeah.
the big finale.
Yeah. And all we see is just the 3 of them like walking out of Grams' house to go we don't know where.
And Jack was like, good luck sleeping on that boat in the middle of the ocean, Pacey.
Oh
Yeah, your creepy floating house.
Yeah, so that was the end of episode 9. Good times. I think I said this before we started recording, but just like, I think this was like a filler episode to allow fans to process the fact that Dawson lost his virginity in the prior episode.
I mean, that was a big deal.
It's a lot to think about.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
And clearly, Victoria has been thinking about Dawson's hairy nipples for days now.
All I can think about is James Vanderbeek's hairy nipples.
She definitely needed this episode as like a
break.
a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
The hairy nipple cleanser.
So I mean, I guess I'll also just kind of like another boring, definitely fluff episode. But Cindy, I think you wanted each of us to tell a scary story.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems appropriate.
Okay.
Victoria, stop it.
So tired.
Get it together and tell your scary story.
You go first.
Okay, we all have scary stories. This one's mine. So it's called Harmonica in the Sunroom.
Oh, you have a title? Damn, I don't have a title for mine.
I mean, I just came up with it like
Okay.
an hour before I got here.
Okay.
I was at my mom's house. She has a sunroom attached to the back of the house. It's fully enclosed, like with windows, big windows. You can slide open, slide closed.
It's a 3 seasons room.
A 3 seasons room?
You've never heard that term before?
No.
Some people out there who are listening in parts of the country might know this room is a 3 seasons room.
What does that mean? You can use it all seasons except winter?
Correct. Your mom uses it in winter too.
I am most familiar with sunroom.
It's
Sunroom.
it's a sunroom. It's like one of those manufactured rooms that you can get tacked onto the back of your house. That's all windows.
Yeah, it
But
doesn't have like insulation or anything. It's just an addition to the house.
Yeah.
The back of the house.
3 seasons room.
A 3 seasons room.
Okay.
But harmonica in the sunroom sounds better than harmonica in the 3 seasons room.
Fine.
So I've always had a fear of my mom's house. And it's not her house specifically. It's any house that I'm like awake and alone in. It could be any house. Houses are just scary, especially late at night if you're like up alone. I don't like houses. There are too many entry points.
I don't
It's
like
right.
outside.
No.
terrifying.
That's fair because there's like a lot of rooms and levels and stuff, and you could be in one part of the house and there could be a
Have
whole,
no idea what's happening on the
whole
other side of the house.
situation happening in another part of the house that you don't have eyes on.
Yeah, dude.
Because it's not a studio apartment, and that's where we all live.
And that's where I've always lived.
Yeah, if you and you can't have eyes on like everything, you can't have ear, and then there's like a bunch of doors and stuff everywhere, windows.
And it's dark outside. So like the sunroom is attached. It's in the backyard. So the backyard's totally dark. And I'm an adult, but I'm still terrified of sitting in the sunroom after my mom goes up to go night-night. So my mom gets tired around like 11 to 12, pussy. And she goes up to go night-night. And then I'm just sitting in the sunroom and I feel exposed because it's all windows. So even though I know realistically there's no one in the backyard, like no one's looking at me, I feel like everyone
What about
is.
that MAGA guy that lives next door? He might be
I mean,
looking.
he actually could be. And that's a thought that I've had many times.
I mean, that's what you got to be afraid of. Fucking MAGA guy next door. Anyways, go ahead. Tell your
but
story.
I've always had a fear of like, I don't know. I think of that Pink Floyd song, "The lunatic is in the halls." You know that song?
No.
No. Oh, I don't know that song.
Anyway, I think of that song every time I sit in the sunroom alone.
Don't sit in a sunroom alone, then.
But where else am I supposed to sit? That's where the TV is.
Okay.
See, this is like the central place where you hang out and watch TV. It's in the fucking sunroom.
Okay.
So my mom goes up to go night-night. It's the summertime, so all the windows are open. And I'm just sitting on the couch. The couch is directly against the windows that are open. And I'm chilling. All of a sudden, I hear what sounds like a harmonica coming from outside, like right behind the couch, right outside of the window. And I'm like, the fuck is that?
Like it could be right over your shoulder.
Yeah, that's what it
Like there
sounded
could
like.
be
It was
like-
right over my right shoulder.
Like a creeper standing right behind you outside the sunroom,
and of course, yes,
playing the harmonica.
the visual that I had was like a crackhead demon blowing one note into a harmonica, like, and I was like, what the fuck? And I looked out the window and it stopped. And I was like, but it's dark. You can't see out, but everyone can see into the sunroom because the lights are on, the TV's on. Know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if the lunatic isn't in the hall, if the lunatic is right outside of my shoulder playing the harmonica, I wouldn't be able to see him. So I'm like, okay, just chill. Like maybe that was nothing. So I tried to chill. It happens again. Boo. And it's right here. And I'm like, okay, fuck this. So I'm freaking out and I'm like, okay, well, the lunatic can see you. So don't act like you're freaking out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Be cool. Just act like you're going to bed. Like this is totally normal. You're wrapping up. You're going to close the windows and go to bed. So I'm like trying to be cool, act normal, closing the windows with haste, but trying to make it seem like this is totally routine. I'm like, okay, I have to get the fuck out of here. I have to go night-night. And I closed all the windows. I locked everything. I triple checked everything, turned the TV off, ran upstairs like a 7-year-old. You know how you like run upstairs when you're little after all the lights go off because you're
Yes.
like afraid of the dark. And I'm like, oh, I'm texting Ben. I'm like, oh my God, dude, there was like definitely someone out back. It sounded like they were playing harmonica. And he's like, why would someone be in the backyard playing harmonica?
Fair question.
I'm like, I don't know, but I'm telling you, it was so loud. It was clear as day. It just freaked me out. So the next day I wake up and I tell my mom, I'm like, Ma, this really terrifying thing happened last night. It sounded like someone was right outside playing harmonica. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I'm telling you, a harmonica sound happened right behind my head. And she's like, are you talking about I got this trellis for one of my plants and it rubs against the window and it makes noise. And I was like, no, that's not what it was. It wasn't like a trellis sound. And she's like, okay, I'm telling you, go look. So I go outside and it's like bright day so I can see everything. And she does have a metal trellis in one of her planters and it's leaning against the window. And so I did a little test. I made sure to do this test when she wasn't around, just so she wouldn't know that I was a complete dumbass. And I moved the trellis against the window and it sounded exactly like a harmonica note. And I was like, oh. But it was so scary at night to just suddenly hear. I'd never heard the sound. You know, like when you're in houses, you get used to the weird sounds they make and they're not scary. But this was a sound I'd never heard at my mom's house ever before. It was terrifying.
That does sound like it would be scary.
That's scary.
That is
And you
scary.
get like, you know, your mind
man,
gets
your
carried
mind-
away and you
yes,
start like imagining
yes.
the craziest shit. And I'm like, oh, there's definitely a crackhead that jumped the 6-foot privacy fence that my mom has.
There is no way I
With
would
his
have
harmonic, like Bob Dylan. I was imagining like
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan demon. I mean, he already looks like a crypt keeper, but like imagine Bob Dylan crypt keeper times 10, just like right behind me, like hunchbacked, just being like, bow, 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 bow. That's what I was imagining. I was so scared.
There is no way in hell I would have been that calm and collected. Like I probably would have like
I was drunk.
I would.
I was
mean,
sitting down there alone drinking after my mom went night-night.
I'm just
so I
saying,
was
but
like,
just like you, like telling yourself to be calm. Like you probably actually did look like a crazy person. Like you were probably moving a lot faster than you thought you were.
I was trying to move slowly so that if Bob Dylan was looking at me, he wouldn't get off on the fact that he scared me. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, you'd be like,
No, I'm just-
Mom, I'm going to bed now.
Oh, I'm suddenly tired. I'm like
Quickly
manically closing all the
close
windows.
and lock all the windows and turn off the TV and then run up the stairs and text my boyfriend.
Oh, wait. I want to tell one more story. This is going to be a quick one. When I lived in Bushwhack, it was a ground floor apartment. I only lived there for 3 years. It was a transitional space. I don't like living on ground floor apartments because I'm really afraid of people having easy access to the apartment, like through the windows.
yeah.
This particular night, my roommate was out. It was just me in the apartment. It wasn't late. It was like 9 p.m. or something. And I was having a late night peach snack because I like fruit at night. So I went to the kitchen and I opened the fridge. I got my little peach out and I'm rinsing it in the sink. And the living room windows are like right behind the kitchen. All of a sudden I hear, I know I didn't make this up, a tapping, like a finger tapping on the window.
Ugh.
And I fucking stopped as I'm rinsing this peach and I was like, what the fuck, dude? I know that's someone tapping on the window. So there were blind, you know those Venetian blinds that are vertical and not horizontal, and you twist the little knob and the slats close?
Yeah.
That's what we had, but you can kind of see in the cracks sometimes, and I wasn't sure if they were totally shut. And my back was facing the window, so I didn't want to turn around. Like, I didn't want to give
You want to acknowledge
Bushwick Bob Dylan the gratification.
of being like, huh?
Right. So I froze and I was like, okay, be cool, dude. Be cool. I turned off the water and I was just still. And I fucking heard it again. It was like, but the sound on window, like it's a
Yeah.
very distinct sound.
Yeah.
I know I didn't make it up.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I took my peach and I wanted to scurry, but I didn't scurry. I just like walked slowly back to my bedroom, which was away from the living room. And then I was texting Ben. I was like, there's someone tapping on the window.
Was that your roommate?
No, because when she got home, like an hour later, I was like, dude, someone was tapping on the glass window. And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah.
She was like, why would somebody tap on the glass window and play the harmonica?
And I was like, I don't know, but this is the world I'm living in, and now you're a part of it. And then we both looked out front for someone hiding.
like in the trash cans.
Yeah, and there's no resolution to this story. I mean, I never found out, but I swear to God, it was the creepiest fucking thing when you're alone in your apartment and someone, I just felt like he could see through the slats, whoever it was.
I mean, that very well could have been.
I was gonna say that
Could have been a creepy asshole.
right.
Yeah.
Like, I see a girl eating a peach. Tap, tap, tap.
Peach.
Twice.
Yeah, he's like, turn around. Take a bite. Take
I'm
a bite
still
out of the
getting chills.
peach. I want to watch.
Oh my God, that fucking terrified me.
Gross.
Those are some scary stories, Cindy.
Thanks.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, do you have any scary stories you want to share? Any other harmonica demons?
Let me share mine next because mine is not anything that happened in real life, but I can't think of any scary moments in my past that I remember. Like I just can't. So mine was a reoccurring nightmare that I had when I was a kid, and it involved my brother Matthew, who both you guys know. And I don't remember how old I was, but I remember that I felt like this reoccurring dream kept happening for at least a year. And I want to say I might have been somewhere between like 8, 9, or 10 years old when this was happening. But Matthew was in high school and he went to a private high school. So a private Catholic high school.
Bougie.
Bougie. A private Catholic high school. And so like if anyone is familiar with like, you know, going to a private school and most certainly going to a private Catholic high school, you know, you go to, your teachers are priests and nuns, which when you're a kid, they're like the scariest people. And so it was always like, so imagine you're on the landing of a stairwell. So you have stairs going up and stairs going down, and I can see both stairs, like stairs going up, stairs going down. And Matthew is just on this landing in between these stairs, and he's sitting at a desk, and it's pitch black all around, like so pitch black you can't see your hand in front of your face. Except he has one little desk lamp, and that's the only thing that's lighting this whole situation. And he's just sitting there. He's just sitting there and he's writing. It's like he's working on an assignment of some kind. And I can see him and I can yell his name, but he can't hear me. And I'm so close that I can almost touch him, but I can't. And like I feel like I've been put on this mission to save him.
From the darkness,
yeah. And like, but almost like I'm like hovering above him. Like I always remembered like feeling like I was up above him, like looking down on him and like being so close to being able to like rescue him from the situation, because I could tell that he was being punished for something, and that his punishment was to sit at this desk with no other light except for that desk lamp and just like furiously writing whatever he was supposed to be writing. And this was also at the time of like when Elvira was at her height of popularity. Do y'all remember Elvira?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, but she scared me as a kid.
Oh, Melissa.
She's very scary. Those big titties, very scary.
Yeah, well, and just the way she talked and carried herself, and she was like pale white, and she had those long black pointy nails, and I don't know, she just scared me a little bit.
Okay.
So, but I never saw her face. Like anytime in this dream, I never saw her face, but I always knew it was her because of her hand. And it was always just this hand that was just like reprimanding Matthew, like, you better finish and you can't leave
This is a really crazy recurring nightmare, because usually the person having the recurring nightmare, it's happening to them, but you're watching like a really bad thing happen to Matthew.
Yeah, I can't explain it. Like, I don't know what my little 9-year-old brain was going through.
Yeah, you were trying to work through something.
Yeah.
At the time.
I mean, I can't imagine like what 9-year-old me would have been so stressed about that I wasn't
Like
even
saving
having
him.
Yeah, saving someone else. It was like you said, it wasn't even about me, or maybe me in the sense like I couldn't save him and that was my failure, you know, like the fact that I couldn't help him in any way. But just this like, and the strange part of it was that the hand always seemed to be a little bit outsized. Like it wasn't in proportion to Matthew. Matthew was always very small and tiny, you know, but he was supposed to be in high school. Like, you know, he's a slightly grown human boy, you know, but the hand was just really large and big and just like pointing at him and just like reprimanding him and like you can't leave until you finish this. And there was nothing I could do to help him.
And you had this regularly.
Yeah, I had it multiple times for about a year when I was a kid. Yeah, and I hated, and it wasn't ever like, it didn't consume me so much to where like I was afraid to go to sleep or like I had trouble sleeping, but I remember it like me having it like multiple times.
Yeah,
when
there
I
was
a
something
kid.
going on with you and your little
In my
tiny
little
brain.
9-year-old brain. Yeah, but I just couldn't. I always woke up like feeling really like bad that I couldn't
save Matthew.
Matthew.
From Elvira.
From Elvira. Yeah, that's my scary story. I don't know if it was scary or not, but it was scary to me when I was
scared.
It was
I'm
scary
scared right
to
now.
It was scary to me when I was a kid. Yeah, so that's
it is scary.
It is scary, right?
I might have that dream tonight. Thanks a lot.
All right, Victoria, do you have a scary story?
Okay. I mean, this isn't that scary, but I was going to tell us another story about Cindy's mom's house, but I thought of a different one. Because I don't.
Story about my mom's house.
The one where you, me, and Steph were sitting on the swing in the backyard, and there was some animals either fighting or fucking, and then it sounded like one of them was going to climb up over the fence, and we were convinced it was aliens because we were high, and then we ran inside. That's the story. But
That was so scary, Victoria. Oh my God.
I mean, it's not that scary.
I don't know if I can sleep tonight.
It was just some animals, and we were like,
You had to be there. It was really terrifying.
It was
I mean-
actually because the sounds were like no animal I've ever heard before. But in the early 2000s, I lived in Richmond, Virginia, and there was a lot of crime. Everybody I knew had gotten mugged, except for me. I managed to avoid that, but I had a fear of finding a dead body in a dumpster or trash can, just because there was a lot of crime and like it's bound to happen at some point, right?
Okay.
And so then I lived in this,
Sure.
I lived in this apartment in the downtown area of Richmond. At the time, the area was really depressed. It's been revitalized since, but like every other storefront was like empty, and it was just it was sad. It was Richmond's sad time, peak sadness. And
Peak sadness.
peak sadness for Richmond, Virginia in the early 2000s.
Hashtag sad love.
Yeah. So at some point I went to like take my trash out behind a building, and I opened the bin and I noticed something.
Was this at night?
No, it was during the day.
Oh, okay.
The evening. I don't remember. So it was light out. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to see. And I probably would not have taken the trash out at night because
Of the muggings?
because Richmond was sketch as fuck. Anyways, so I went to take the trash out and I noticed something that looked like hair in the trash. What? And I was like, and my first thought was like, this is it.
This is the day.
This is it. This is the part where I find the dead body. So I shifted some items around and there was just like more and more hair.
Like human hair?
Well,
Wig hair.
right.
Extensions.
So there was this hair
Someone's
salon
weave.
next
Yeah.
door, and it was definitely like a giant pile of discarded weave. And I was like, "Oh, phew, woo, woo!"
Today's not the day.
Not the day. It's just some old weave. That's my story.
I'd be terrified too.
That would have freaked me out too. Yeah. Especially like knowing what you knew about the city at the time. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a night the apartment had it was like a junior one, so it was like bigger than a studio, but there was like French doors between the living room and bed. Not even French doors; those like slotted closet doors to separate the living room from the bedroom. And then in the bedroom, the only window in there was French doors that went onto the fire escape. And I would sometimes I like to sleep with the windows open. That was the only window in there, and it was not a good idea to sleep with those doors open, but I did it anyways. And I had these long curtains that my mom had made. They would blow around in the breeze, and I was on the second floor. And somebody could have maybe like pulled that ladder down and climbed up, but mostly it was fine. But there was one night that I like woke up, and it was the middle of the night, and I was half asleep and confused, but I saw a flash and a loud noise, and then I was like, and just like went back to sleep. And then the next morning I was like, was that gunfire? Is that what I saw? Like, did somebody fire a gun outside of my apartment? Because I saw the flash and heard the noise, but I'm not sure if that ever happened or not. And then another time, there was a guy who lived upstairs from me, had the exact same apartment as me, and we like talked occasionally, but he like mentioned to me or checked on me because he was like, yeah, I was in my apartment and I was like laying in bed and I heard somebody knocking on the door, and I wasn't expecting anybody, so I didn't answer. And then I heard them like jiggling, messing with the doorknob and the lock. And so I went and threw open the door, and it was some fucking crackhead trying to break in. And I like fucking yelled at him, and he ran out. And I was like, what? What now? Because my apartment was like the first one. If you got into the apartment door and went up the stairs, because there was a photo studio on the first floor where I worked, and I lived above it. So my apartment was first, and then this guy was above. And I think I was home at the time when it happened. I was like in the shower. So I was like, this guy tried to break into my apartment while I was in the shower. Couldn't get in, so he went upstairs, and then that guy was like, go fuck yourself. Maybe.
Oh my gosh, I just thought of it. Just thought of a truly scary story, because this happened in real life, and Victoria reminded me
triggered.
of it. Yes, I was triggered by Victoria's story. So this was back in Dallas. Me and my girlfriend, we worked at the same restaurant together, and we went out for drinks afterwards, and we were both pretty drunk, and she was like, you can crash at my apartment. I'm like, okay, great. And she was like, you can sleep in the spare bedroom because my roommate just moved out, but there's still a bed in there and there's still sheets and everything. So you can sleep in that bedroom. She's going to go sleep in her room. And I was like, okay, great. Thank you so much. And then the next morning, she lived on the second floor. These were like garden style apartments. So it was just 2 levels. She lived on the second floor. And so, and we were right next to a fairly busy highway. So you could hear the highway noise if any of the windows, and she had a balcony that had a sliding glass door. So if you had that sliding glass door open, you could definitely hear the car traffic rushing by. And so we're both, pretty wasted, we pass out, and then she wakes up first, and she wakes up because she can hear the traffic like a lot louder than it should have been. And she walks into the living room area, and her glass sliding door is wide open.
Oh, hell no.
Her sliding glass door is wide open, and she starts to look around and notices things are kind of been rifled through.
Oh, fuck no.
Been rifled through.
I'm terrified right now.
Hell, this is the scariest story.
Yeah, I know.
Shit, I know.
I'm talking about Bob Dylan playing
can't-
harmonica.
I know,
behind
because
me.
this actually happened. I know, and I can't believe I didn't think about it. So, like, she wakes me up, and she's like, Melissa, someone's been in this apartment. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? So she didn't tell me this, and because like, why would she? But like, whoever, she had a prior roommate, not the person who just moved out, but someone else, and they had a very horrible ending. It wasn't amicable at all, and she still had this. I can't fully remember the story, so it could have been even an ex-boyfriend of hers, because she had like a pile of his stuff at the front door, and like they had made arrangements for her to drop off this stuff to him. And like that was kind of one of the first things she noticed, was that this pile of stuff at the front door was no longer there. So she believes that this person climbed up onto her balcony, got in like her sliding glass door. And it was one of those things where like you're on the second floor, so you don't think to lock the sliding glass door, because
who would make the effort to scale the side of a building?
Right. Yeah. To get in that way.
How would you even do that, actually?
I don't know.
Because like when I lived in Woodside, I was on the second floor and we had a sliding glass door onto a balcony, and we never thought to lock it because why? Right. Yeah. How would anyone even climb the building?
Right. Yeah.
To get in.
A ladder.
How did this fucker climb the building?
I mean, it's still a question that's
Same-
never...
Oh, right. Ladders exist.
Same way that Joey climbed into Dawson's room all the time. Fucking Mitch put a ladder on the side of the house. 'Cause that's
But
safe.
even scarier is that like she believes that he walked in, this person, I can't say if it was man or woman, that this person walked into both bedrooms.
Oh,
like while we were sleeping, like
I don't like home invasion.
This
stories.
person
They scare
definitely
me.
went into her bedroom and stole jewelry from her bedside. So she's sleeping, and he's like right there next to her taking stuff. He stole both of our paychecks out of our purses.
Oh my God.
And proceeded to exit out the front door. Like I think the front door was also slightly ajar. And like, so we have no real, we never really knew like when this happened, because obviously we were both drunk and we passed out and we were both obviously dead asleep, because this person didn't wake either of us up.
He was like, or she was right next to you,
slept through
taking
the whole
your fucking paychecks out of your wallets.
Yeah. And like, I mean, we called the police. Like this person took some DVDs. Like he attempted.
What DVDs did they take?
I don't.
I would love to know.
I don't remember.
Home
like
Alone 2 when Harry Met Sally.
He attempted to take her DVD player. He attempted to take some electronics from her. He stole some jewelry off her bedside table and off her dresser. Yeah, like I said, stole our paychecks. And like we were so freaked out. And like thankfully, for what made us feel safe was that like a fellow coworker lived right across the way. Like we ran across the parking lot to his apartment. We were banging on his door. Oh, it wasn't just me and her that were out drinking the night before. He was there with us. It was like a group. After the dinner shift, a whole group of us went out for drinks. So he was there too. And he didn't answer the door. We were like banging bloody murder on his door. And he thought that we were just being like stupid, idiot, hungover. Like he didn't think anything serious would have happened, but we were just like banging on his door. I think we were like calling and texting him like, help, we need help. Like, we wanted someone familiar.
Yeah.
With us. But yeah, I mean, obviously we called the police, and like it was really kind of scary in the end too, because when police come in and like fingerprint shit and like do any of their investigating, they don't clean up after themselves.
No.
So there's just like fingerprint dust all over the place in her apartment. They've rifled through more stuff to try and like gather evidence. So her apartment was even messier after the police had left, and like she basically spent that entire day outside of her apartment because she's like, I'm too scared and too nervous to go back there. And I think I even offered, like, I was living at home at the time, and I was like, well, you can stay with me if you want. Like, she didn't even want to sleep in. I mean, because she was theoretically living by herself. Like, if I hadn't have been there, she would have been alone.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so, like,
and clearly it's easy to get in. So the person could come back and do it again.
Right.
But she could lock that slider.
She could lock that slider. But this is like more reason why.
I'm
sorry. It's just the heater coming on. It's probably probably gonna hear it in the recording because that's New York City apartments.
But this is why
style.
I tell you I'm afraid of living in a house, because if this scenario happened in a house versus a 1-2 bedroom apartment, when you wake up and see things in disarray and the sliding glass door is open, you're like, oh shit, I have a whole nother floor of this house unaccounted for.
Yeah, they could still be here.
This person could be in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I have one more scary story for the ages. Okay, this one's really, really terrifying. Okay,
This episode of
put
Basic
on-
Teen TV has turned into Scary Story Hour.
Yep, everybody's dropped off. They're like these drunk bitches. They're just hanging out now, and they're recording their hangout.
I mean, basically.
Basically.
But this one's really, really scary. So put on your thunder jackets, get safe,
Oh,
do whatever you have to do.
Okay.
Okay. One time in my life, I dated someone for 7 years.
Oh my God, that's the scariest shit I've ever heard.
No, that's not the scary part.
Oh, sorry.
I thought that was the story.
No,
You're
no.
like, and he sucked.
No, wait, let me tell the story. One time in my life, I dated someone for 7 years. 7 prime years of my life.
Wasted.
I met them when I was 25 and dated until I was
32.
yeah. What you do the math.
32.
Then all of a sudden one day after 7 years of commitment they never spoke to me again. Ghosted after 7 years.
In the most
never got a text.
in the most literal
back.
sense. In the most literal sense of ghosted.
Yeah.
Ghosted.
That's like the ultimate scary story. It could happen to you. Lock your doors. Lock your vaginas. Lock it all up. This shit's scary out there.
Put on that chastity belt. Lock
Put
the key
on that chastity
and throw it
belt.
away.
Put on your thunder jackets. Get a therapist. Because shit gets wild.
All right. Well, this has been a super exciting episode of Basic Teen TV. I hope you've enjoyed all of our super scary stories. We'll be back at you next week with episode 10. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, episode 10. My name is Melissa,
I'm Victoria.
I'm Cindy.
and we're Basic Teen TV. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.